the U.S. could deploy driverless ships in the Indo-Pacific. Welcome to VOA Asia Weekly. I'm Chris Casqueo in Washington. That story coming up, but first making headlines. A long-awaited report from the United Nations Human Rights Office says China's discriminatory detention of Uyghurs and other mostly Muslim ethnic groups in the western region of Xinjiang may constitute crimes against humanity. For the first time, Taiwan shot down a suspected Chinese drone flying over one of its outlying islands. Earlier in the week, it said it would exercise its right to self-defense and counterattack if Chinese armed forces entered its territory. The Solomon Islands has asked countries not to send naval vessels to the South Pacific nation until approval processes are overhauled. The government made the request after U.S. Coast Guard cutter Oliver Henry and a British Navy patrol boat canceled planned port calls last week due to bureaucratic delays. The U.S. Navy sailed 2 warships through the Taiwan Strait in the first such publicized transit since U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. The U.S. and China announced an agreement to allow U.S. regulators to effectively audit China-based accounts, a key first step in a process that could prevent more than 200 Chinese companies from being kicked off U.S. stock exchanges. The U.S. and South Korea staged their biggest combined military exercise in years Wednesday, as more than 1,000 troops carried out a live fire drill fewer than 32 kilometers from the secured border zone with North Korea. As the U.S. military continues to consider China's military strength in the Indo-Pacific region, the U.S. Navy is turning to driverless ships to multiply its forces. VOA's Jessica Stone takes a closer look at this military innovation.
These 4 unmanned ships are among the newest additions to the U.S. Navy. Meet Sea Hunter, Seahawk, Nomad, and Ranger. This summer, the Navy gave VOA special access to photograph them for the first time. U.S. Naval Commander Jeremiah Daly, permitted to give VOA an audio-only interview, leads the 1st Division made up of remotely operated ships or drone boats. Daly says these unmanned vessels currently being piloted could one day enable the Navy to better patrol the vast 165 million square kilometers of the Pacific Ocean.
The Pacific is a large body of water, and having the right combination of unmanned systems that can sense the environment with manned systems only widens the aperture for the level of targeting and connectedness capability that not only the U.S. but our partners can have together with us.
Japan, Singapore, South Korea, and China all have programs to develop driverless ships. Former top Pentagon Asia official Randy Shriver says drone boats are critical to maintain a free and open Indo-Pacific in the face of an expanding and assertive Chinese military.
The spaces that are contested are certainly growing, and I think autonomous or unmanned vehicles, either submerged or on the surface, are cheaper. They're more expendable in terms of not risking the lives of sailors.
But a U.S. government report released in July raises concerns about whether the Navy understands the logistics support required for these vessels. Others, such as James Siebens, a defense strategy fellow at the Stimson Center, worry that these ships could make a more attractive military target.
China, for one, might regard an unmanned vessel as a less escalatory target to test out an anti-ship missile.
Siebens says that despite those concerns, driverless ships could be critical in responding to a Chinese blockade of Taiwan.
They might be able to help resupply Taiwan without putting U.S. service personnel in harm's way.
In its just-released white paper, Beijing no longer promises it will not send troops to Taiwan in a potential takeover. Commander Daly says the unmanned surface vehicles should be fully integrated into the U.S. military in the next few years. Jessica Stone, VOA News, Washington.
Visit voanews.com for the most up-to-date stories. You're watching VOA Asia Weekly. Sri Lanka on Thursday landed a preliminary agreement to obtain $2.9 billion from the International Monetary Fund, a crucial lifeline for the crisis-plagued South Asian country. Finally, 2 giant pandas marked their 18th birthdays at the Taipei Zoo. Tuan Tuan and Yuen Yuen were given a 2-tiered birthday dessert made of frozen fruit. The pandas were given to Taiwan from China in 2008 as part of an exchange program. Combining their names, Tuan Yuen means reunion in English. That's all the time we have here on VOA Asia Weekly. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Chris Casqueo. Please be sure to tune in again next week.